I mean, we've forgotten to hit record a couple of times, but it's always real fun to do the same thing again. So,
Yeah,
who
like our
doesn't
first
enjoy?
episode where we had to redo it 4
It's like
times.
somebody who's yeah, it's like somebody who, stacks a bunch of Legos together, and then the evil stepmom comes over, slaps those Legos all over the place, and they're like, "Do it again, but do it better."
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody has that same experience, right?
No.
Oh,
No one messes with my Legos. Usually I just take them apart after I build them.
yeah.
Um, but now
Legos are expensive.
they are. I got a bonsai tree and it was like $60.
Man, what are you gonna do with your bonsai tree?
I put it together and I leave it next to my work desk as like you know how people have like plants next to their desks so they feel close to nature or whatever.
Yeah,
I just have like Lego plants next to my work desk.
man, you're like a cube. I don't know how to describe it, but basically, like you're like a synthetic version of Ralph Waldo Emerson.
I don't know who that is.
He talked a lot about nature in a lot of his poems.
Oh,
So I was saying you're like synthetic nature.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they can't all be zingers. We've established this before.
That's true. I often think about getting like those fake plants that to just brighten up my desk, but I think Legos is the way to go.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's whatever's going to like breathe a little bit of relaxation into your workday, so to speak, something to take your mind off of things and let you know just
Yeah,
what you appreciate.
I anything to get you going, because man, I hate my job.
Yeah. No, you're good. You're good. So, but
If I just need more Legos to make the workday a little bit better, so be it.
I think that you should have a chair made entirely out of Legos. But that'd be terrible.
My chair is already broken. Like I have to
Have you,
press it up against the wall because if you lean back on it, it just goes back.
have you considered fixing it with Legos?
I fixed it with a wall.
Yeah.
You know, I've been
Yeah.
using it that way for I don't know 9 months now or something like that. It's a long time. It's been broken a while.
Sounds like you need a new chair, but chairs are expensive,
They
surprisingly.
are.
I don't know why they're so expensive.
I don't know.
So,
Like
uh,
the one I'm using now was like 50% off that I got on sale, and it was like $250. But,
yeah.
um, I look at Herman Miller chairs. They're expensive though. They're like
Oh, they're
$1,200 for like a relatively cheap one.
if you talk to Ron, he had a at one point in time he had a bunch of bases and everything down in the basement of his shop.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to stop by his shop the second week of April,
Yeah.
second weekend of April to get a tour. His new shop. He
Oh,
kept
nice.
complaining about the price of real estate right now. And I'm like,
I
I feel like most people are probably complaining about the price of real estate right now.
when I bought my first house, I was making $12.50 an hour, had no
Yeah.
debt, and had
Yeah.
$5,000 down payment.
Right.
And now I make almost $21 an hour with a $50,000 down payment, and I can't get pre-approved.
Isn't that something? I'm gonna have a cigarette real quick, and then we can
Sure.
well, yeah, we can get into that. I really need to figure out. That's not relevant for right now. But I'm gonna go outside, have a cigarette,
All right. Be careful.
then we can start on. Well, it's dangerous out there,
It
but
is.
then we can start on whatever. But yeah, isn't that crazy? That like just how much? Like I don't feel like like most people who were roughly 40 and older around 2000 whenever the Bush administration was in office, I would say 2002, right? Um,
It was before Obama.
yeah, I know. Oh, but it was after 2000.
Bush
September
was
11th,
after Clinton.
2001.
It was.
So he
Was it
must have been
before Trump?
inaugurated in
16,
2000.
12, 8. So Bush was
2000.
from 2 to 8. No,
Yeah.
2000 to 8. 2016. Yeah. And then Bush was before that, so 2000 to 2008.
Yeah. But people who are around the age of 40, right around
Yeah.
then, right? Usually the older up, the more correlation there is to this. They've already been established in whatever position they're in, right?
Right.
At least a lot of them, not all of them. I'm certainly
I
not
think it's
trying
like
to
late
generalize.
50s now.
Yeah.
I'm almost 40.
Well, yeah, but I was saying 40, between 35 and, well, I would say between 37 and 45. Well, actually 37 plus, really. Back in 2000. Um, if you were roughly that age, right?
Oh,
Then you
okay. So
don't
if you're 40,
realize,
when you're 40 in
yeah,
2000,
you'd be
so
roughly 50 plus at this point.
yeah.
But I don't think you realize exactly how bad inflation has gotten for the younger generation that still has to make that name for themselves because they were already established. You understand
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
it's real hard now.
Yeah, it ain't great.
No, it's really not.
Yeah. So, but I'll
And
be
now,
right back.
all right.
I'll go ahead. I'll finish the thought. I figured when I got back we would end up.
No,
Just
we can wait until you get back.
okay. All right. Gives you some time to reflect.
Sure.
Silent meditation.
Right. I need that right now.
Do you?
No.
Oh.
I'm all right.
All right. You have fun with your silent meditation then.
All right.
So,
Now you're back.
yeah, go ahead and talk whenever you're ready.
Luckily, the Republicans have a budget plan in place to fix the economy.
Do they?
Yeah, they want to cut Social Security. They want
What?
to raise the retirement age to 69. They want to make it so Medicare can't negotiate what drug prices and what else. What else do they want to do?
Abort the babies?
Um, they want to pass a 5.5 trillion tax cut skewed for the wealthy and large corporations. So to pay
Oh,
for that, they want to
lose
cut
money?
rental assistance, Social Security, and raise retirement age to 69. Oh, they also want to try and redo the Affordable Health Care Act.
Well, that's cool.
It's like sometimes when I read these things, I'm like, all right, what, what
Well,
is going on?
do you remember that video I sent you the other night of Monopoly?
Yeah,
Because that's exactly where this is headed. Like,
yeah,
it's
like,
so for our viewers, Monopoly, we've all played it. It's based around buying real estate, right? But in this video, there was a corporation playing, and they bought all the properties, and the two players are like, "I'm out of money. I guess we're just gonna go live under a bridge." And the corporations are like, "No, that's not how this is supposed to work." And from that, you can get the general idea of what we're
yeah,
discussing today. Well, not entirely. That's not actually the topic of this, but what we're
right.
discussing right now.
The topic of today was pranks because I saw this I keep seeing this TikTok video of this guy with a saxophone with a cone at the end of it, so it's
Yeah.
really loud and like a baritone like um tone to it.
Right.
And he just like walks into like Chipotle's and restaurants and like cafes and on the streets where there's giant lines and just starts playing. and I'm like,
Yeah,
this
the
is
worst part
a
is you mentioned that, and
yeah,
then, like, I didn't even think, right, that I had seen this before, and then I
yeah.
that video popped up, I'm like, "I've seen that guy somewhere," and it was him and a band doing it at one point,
Oh,
but it
and
was quite funny.
and when I was watching some of them, like some of the people were just take out their phone and try to make TikTok videos out of it for
Right.
content. Other people were just like getting pissed off at them. There was like one employee at a store that was just like visibly just looked upset and just walked away. There was another one where like they're trying to get him to leave and like being like, "Dude, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, get out, get out."
Right.
Sometimes police officers would approach them, and he'd like slowly start walking away to try to like just keep playing, but just kind of almost avoid the officer. But it's pranks like that. Then I'm like, all right, no one's really getting hurt. It it's it's affecting a lot of people, but I don't really see a whole lot of harm going on. It might be annoying for some people, but for the most part, usually like 80% of the people really are like enjoying it and laughing. And pranks like that, I think, are pretty, for the most part, non-toxic and not super harmful and okay.
Right.
But
And
then
with
there are other
that
And then there are other
oh,
pranks that are like, I'm gonna go into the dairy aisle and take off the lids of ice cream and lick them all and put them back during COVID.
yeah. Yeah, that one's a little bit weird. And
Yeah.
with that, we've been reminded that we have forgotten to record, an intro to Ethica America a few times this week by our listeners. I am co-host Ryan.
I'm Aaron.
Nah. So
No,
you're not Aaron?
I am Aaron.
Well, why did you say no then?
Oh, I don't know.
You said no
Oh,
again.
Amanda asked if I knew a YouTuber
called Miskiff.
called
Or
Miskiff.
is it TikToker?
Maybe a TikToker, I don't know. But he would walk into people's houses.
Yeah.
So he lives in the UK. Obviously, this would not like fly in the United States because you'd probably get fucking shot. But in the UK, he literally just walked into this person's house and just like he just walked into their house. And they had like a kid, and like the wife was outside gardening, so he just walked past her right into the house. And she's like yelling for her husband, like, "Hey, can you come here for a second?" Like, and the kid's just kind of like, "What?"
Did
That's not
anybody
an
ask
okay
him to
prank.
leave though?
No, and then
No,
he
that's
also
not
stole this
really.
old lady's dog. He just grabbed the dog and ran away from her with her dog. Like, he gave the dog back, I'm sure. Like, I'm sure he didn't actually steal the dog.
There are a lot of
But like,
pranks
there's some fucked
that
up
aren't
stuff.
pranks. It's just
Yeah, there's some messed up
it's just
stuff.
illegal things like stealing and trespassing.
Well, oh, go ahead.
I don't
I was
like it.
waiting. I'm sorry.
Like, there's a boyfriend that pretended to commit suicide. Like, he literally had himself in the bathtub with like fake blood and stuff like
Oh,
that. And like, his girlfriend had like had issue with like self harm and stuff like that and suicidal thoughts before.
mhm.
And he thought that was a good prank. It's to like pretend that he was dead.
Tell Amanda to pull up a microphone because she might be the topic of this
Like, I don't know
one.
what's wrong with people.
not like as in like she's performing said pranks.
She watches
has
a lot of
insight.
she watches a lot of React videos from
Yeah,
other
I get
for a lot of like some of these are like Reddit stories like "Am I the asshole?"
Yeah.
or things like that. But she also
Sure,
watches a
yeah.
lot of like TikTok React people. But I have heard of like some of this stuff, that she was talking
Yeah.
about how like what she said about here's a prank about I'm gonna pretend I'm killing myself to my girlfriend, and then
Yeah.
TikTok people stealing dogs. TikTok is really good for watching people do pranks that aren't pranks. It's just harassing people, though.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Some of those are funny too, though. Like at a certain point, though, you have to find that cutoff level, right?
Sure. Yeah, you do. I think like when it stops being a prank is when you're causing emotional and physical harm to someone. But then again, you can look at like Jackass.
Right. Yeah.
So,
And
so
to some degree, like, I mean, and I guess you got to go back to like the definition of a prank, which would be like practical joke or a mischievous act, right?
yeah,
Listen to pranks for YouTube.
So, with that in mind, like, yeah, some things are funny. Like, have you ever seen that? I gotta find it for you now.
like
Jeff
Ashton Kutcher, like what Punked, that Punked show.
with Jeff Bridges instead.
I thought it was Ashton Kutcher.
Well, it was Ashton Kutcher. Let me see if this is it. I'll send you the link in Discord, but I have to do it after an ad now. I don't know if you can hear anything going on in the background, but apparently Godzilla and Kong is gonna be great, but I forgot all about it now.
I don't hear anything in your background.
So this is like 4 minutes and 4 minutes long. It was an SNL skit though. Let me just make sure it's right before I send it to you.
Sure.
I always think back to this when I think of pranks, right? And practical jokes.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it's an SNL skit. We can take a break and you can watch it, but it's where Jeff Bridges has his own prank show, right?
Yeah.
But he never actually lets the prank go through. It's the general idea.
Oh,
If you watch it, you'll understand real
okay.
quick.
Sure, I'll watch it real quick.
Yeah, I'll run outside, smoke real quick, and you can get an idea for that.
Sure.
Just because, like, I think this is hilarious, but only because it's subtle background humor, not because there's anything like that's super funny involved.
Okay.
It's just like Jeff Bridges constantly interjecting with a prank where he thinks he got somebody, but he's being too PC about it. So,
all right.
And he's the dude.
Yeah.
So I'll smoke. I'll come back. We'll talk some more.
Okay. Sounds good.
So, after watching a little bit of that, is that your idea of a prank?
Those were pretty wholesome pranks.
Yeah, that was the whole idea. Was that
Yeah.
it's not actually a prank? It's like Jeff Bridges walking in, somebody's trying to pick up dry cleaning, and they give him a dress by accident. He's
Yeah.
like, I think there must be some mix up, and he's like, hold up, I can explain all this.
See, those are great pranks. They're like low key, not hurting anyone, just confusing them.
Right. But then you get to saxophone guy, which, yeah, to somebody with a hearing aid or something like that, I can
Yeah.
imagine that saxophone is loud.
Sure.
So, I play baritone sax. I know the saxophone can be loud, especially like if you're playing it with a traffic cone to like make it amphitheater levels loud in like a Chipotle.
Yeah. I mean, you get really good acoustics in Chipotles with the walls and the noise and the bouncing.
And their industrial background up top, which just happens to be their HVAC system.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed they never have any roofs in there?
It's too much money.
Well, any drop ceilings.
Yeah.
Well, I think they just stick with the industrial sort of application because it makes maintenance a little bit easier and simpler.
Probably.
Provide better HVAC. I will give them that.
Maybe they're just trying to be like Sam's Club and IKEA because they don't have roofs either. It's just HVAC and scaffolding.
Yeah, well, structure. But yeah, it can be used as scaffolding if you were so inclined, though I think OSHA might have an issue with that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Rebar.
Yeah. So,
pillars.
Well, it would be I-beams and...
there we go. That's the word.
Not rebar. So I played a prank on somebody recently on a plane.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What'd you do?
Stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah. Wasn't that great, guys? No. So there's this woman. I got onto a plane, right?
Yeah.
3 seats on the one side, 2 seats on the other, right? Um, and when I got on there, the person next to me, because I was on the 2-seater side,
Hmm.
never showed up, right? And this woman told me her words were, quote unquote, we need to switch seats because I have a medical condition that causes me a lot of claustrophobia, and we just need to switch seats. So I'm gonna need you to come over here, and I'll go over there. And mostly I just didn't like the way she was talking to me, right? Because it
Yeah.
just seemed rude, right? So I said, "Oh no, that can't happen. The flight attendant would have a fit. Don't you know that you got to select your seat and that seat is legally binding? Like, I wish I could do something for you, but like, I'm stuck over here with all the space, and I have the opposite problem where open space really bothers me. So I guess I'll just have to stretch out and make sure that like the seats in front of me and the seats behind me make me feel like I'm warm and content. But oof, that's rough. It would be illegal for us to switch seats. And this seems like the perfect scenario, but I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
just can't because that'd be illegal. And if a U.S. Air Marshal was on here, I don't want to get arrested.
Sure.
And none of that's true. It's probably
No,
not illegal to switch seats.
probably not.
I was being facetious.
Yeah.
Mostly, like I said, like had she came to me and been like, "Hey, so like, um, I have a problem with being so confined. Would you be willing to switch me seats?"
Yeah.
I'd have been fine with it, but
Sure.
she came at me so rude. So I decided to, I guess prank isn't the right word. I guess taunting is the right word. Where I stretched out in front of both seats and then I kept kicking my legs into the aisle and being like, "Oh, I need to feel closer to other people." Um, that was kind of a dickhead move on my part. But I found myself hilarious.
Yeah.
So,
How did she take it?
she just sat all coddled up in front of her phone, glaring at me the entire plane ride, and I'm like, "Whatever, you can glare at me. I'm not uncomfortable, so you're not gonna make me any more uncomfortable." So,
Right.
you though,
I
oof,
think. Yeah. I think people have a way of making them seem a little bit more entitled to something based off
yeah,
medical conditions, and they could have
yeah,
approached it better. Um, Also, like, don't they? You choose your seats on the flight.
yes.
You
And
should
the
probably
person
like,
next to me,
yeah,
just didn't show up.
yeah, just plan accordingly. I mean, like, if even if those seats weren't, if those seats were available, do you think she would have still came over and said, "Hey, we need to switch seats"?
No, I don't think she would have at all. Like
Yeah,
if there was somebody sitting next to me, no, she wouldn't have said that at all. She only said it because um
yeah,
she only said it because she felt she deserved a seat where she didn't have to sit next to anybody.
right.
She had an aisle seat at that. So it's like you still got one open end of that whole thing.
Yeah, I mean that should be fine, right?
I would have thought.
Is maybe she just does it all the time, where she just tries to switch places with people with her claustrophobia because she can't order plane tickets on time. Maybe I don't know.
I don't know. I don't really care either. Like I said, if she had actually like acted like a human being instead of coming at me with a bunch of like a I don't even want to say anxiety, but coming at me with a bunch of attitude, I
Yeah,
guess is the best way to put it, and basically demanding that I switch seats with her,
right.
then it would have been different. Instead,
Yeah,
I responded like a sarcastic dickhole. Granted, I had been drinking, so that's like you come at me and you make a bunch of demands, and uh, for no reason. Like if
Sure.
if I had some sort of mental issue where I had issues with claustrophobia, right?
Yeah.
Then I understand it's more expensive, but I would make sure that the flight crew was aware of that, right?
Right.
I don't know. Then again,
Yeah.
I would
Uh,
just went intentionally out of my way to be an asshole. So what does that tell you? Mostly just because the way she was talking to me. Like you don't talk to people and be rude like that. I
yeah.
can deal with a lot of that nonsense, but I don't know, dude.
I don't know either.
Mm,
It wasn't a very
no.
good prank on your part.
No, I was like the opposite of Jeff's prank, where not wholesome. I was just kind of a dick.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
but
That's all right.
I recognize that. Well, yeah, and like if
How
anybody
long was the
actually knew
flight?
me, an hour.
Oh,
Yeah, that's why I was like, "Oh, you poor thing."
yeah.
No, no. So,
I feel like if you have like extreme claustrophobia, you just wouldn't go on a plane anyway, though.
well, I mean, let's say your
Especially for an
dad's
hour
dying.
flight. That's like a 3 hour long drive.
Yeah, but it's mostly a layover flight. So
Uh,
that flight being an hour long, right, mostly had to do with everybody getting back to a central hub to go out to wherever they were going, whether that be Seattle, whether that be Colorado, whether that be New York City. So they like to redirect you to a main hub, and then from the main hub, they like to direct you to wherever. So
I know that the flight from the Akron airport to Chicago is like an hour and a half.
yeah, it's not long at all.
It's an
Yeah, and
hour and
Chicago's
15.
another. Yeah, Chicago, Atlanta.
Light air. Yeah.
And it's a 5 hour drive.
Yeah, that's rough. But you could also take a train.
Oh, yeah, you
Chicago has a
could.
really good train network. Yeah, especially up into Wisconsin, which I was surprised about.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We were looking at trains to go from and taking a train to Ohio at one point. But it was like really long. It was like 24 hours.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
When I say trains are the way to go, I literally mean around Chicago suburbs.
Oh, yeah. Going
Then you
into
got good.
Chicago, going out of Chicago, trains are nice. Same with New York.
Yeah.
New York has a nice train system too. I
Yeah.
got a hotel at one point about, I don't know, it was maybe like a half hour outside of New York, and we took a train into New York City, hung out for a
Yeah.
bit, took the train back to the hotel. It was nice though. It
Yeah.
was fun. It was less stressful, that's for sure. Not having to drive
Yeah.
around New
You
York
just
City.
got to know how to look left and right.
I hate driving around Chicago and New York City.
Yeah. I don't mind driving around Chicago as long as it's not rush hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. But most of the time when I arrive, it always seems to be rush hour. And then you're on the Orion freeway for like 2 hours trying to go 5 miles.
Yeah.
I think it's Orion Freeway. I might be wrong about the name, but I know it has some name, Orion.
It's
Some
it's
name with
something like
Ryan.
that.
Yeah. Ryan Parkway, maybe.
Yeah. Chicago's a huge prank too. Like whoever designed that is just pranking the world. Same with New York City. The way that
Well,
those cities are designed, just a giant prank on low income people.
Chicago, like literally they built it and then they decided they needed to raise the city, right?
Right. Yeah.
That way all of their wastewater would flow to St. Louis as opposed to flow back into the lake where they were getting fresh water from.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best prank that's ever been played on St. Louis.
I agree. That was
I'm
a good
not
prank.
sure that's ethical, but
Right.
they literally spent 5 years being like, "Booyah, you can't stop us."
There
And then
is a sorry, go
some
ahead.
court tried to stop them, right?
Yeah.
and then a bunch of people just blew up the dam anyways. It's kind of
There is a
funny.
fine line between pranking and terrorism, and also trolling.
Well,
Sometimes when you troll people, it can go too far, and it's just not nice anymore. I've never experienced that though, because I always have the foresight to stop trolling people.
yeah. I have a second airplane story about my second flight, but I
Is it?
was a little bit more I was even well, I wasn't even the asshole in this situation, but it has nothing to do with pranks. It has everything to do with letting people know that like other people are watching them. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Huh.
So I walked onto this plane, right?
Mhm.
And a couple people stumbled behind me, right? Had a backpack on my back, right? And this is the one that you're really going to enjoy, by the way. Um, so I had a backpack on my back, right? A couple
Mhm.
people stumbled behind me because that's just how planes are. Everybody's in a hurry, but then once you get on the plane, everybody's just very slow at like getting loaded and all that.
Yeah.
I hate planes. So somebody bumped into me. My backpack bumped into somebody, and I said, "I'm sorry
Mhm.
about that." Uh, and he said, "You need to watch where you're going." And I'm like, "This has less to do with me watching where I'm going. Has more to do with I wasn't anticipating, 150 pounds of force coming at me from the back."
Yeah.
And he told me he how do I want to put it? He basically just like shouted a bunch of expletives at me and then asked what I was going to do about it. And then he glared at me. He's like, "Nothing." That's what I thought. And I'm just glaring at him at this point.
Mhm.
And I say, "Just keep in mind, your plane gets off at the same stop that my plane does. And we'll meet again."
Wow. That's honest.
Yeah. Well, it was meant to be. So
Yeah,
then I
you got
fell
him
asleep
good.
during the flight. Well, no, I felt it doesn't end there.
Oh.
So, yeah, so I fell asleep during the flight and I woke up and I'm like, nobody gets to be that type of asshole to me. And I'm like, statistically, he's going to end up in baggage claim. So I went to baggage claim and there he was. And I stood beside him with my arms crossed, right beside him within like 3 inches of the guy with my arms crossed for about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. And I kept staring at him and he didn't do anything. So I tapped him. I'm like, "Hey, do you remember me?" And he's like, "Yeah, I remember you. You don't need to be wearing a backpack on a plane." And I'm like, "What does my backpack have to do with anything?" He's like, "You bumped me with your backpack. Only assholes wear backpacks on planes." I'm like, "So what about the other 20 people who got on the plane before me, right? Who all had backpacks?" And he's like, "They didn't have as many backpacks as you." I'm like, "What? Am I just wearing 15 fucking backpacks off the back of this thing?" Like, I had one backpack and one carry on. He's like, "You know what I meant." And I'm like, "I have no fucking clue what you mean." So then it gets better,
I, I
right?
yeah.
At a certain point, I realize he's drunk as shit, right? Which, I mean, he was riding first class, so I mean, what did I expect, right? So I'm like, "All right. So you know what? Here's all I wanted to say. Don't be a fucking dick. There are consequences for your actions, and you're lucky I don't beat your ass." And I just walked off. And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. Say hi to your boyfriend for me." I'm like, "Fuck you. You're just jealous that I stole him from you." And I just kept walking.
I think you just like
Oh,
confrontation.
I don't really. That's the thing. I just really don't like bullies.
It's true.
I wasn't the only person who he talked to because had I been that way, it would have been one thing, right? But like after a few other people, he was talking to somebody else that way, and I'm like, "Nah, dude, like you're getting a mark. You're gonna understand that like your actions have consequences here." So
I
I
like
did what I did.
Yeah. I mean, I like the comment where you shouted back, "You're just jealous. I stole him from you." That's a good comment. I like that.
It was just true Ryan fashion.
Yeah, that's a good prank.
Because I don't care if I lose, but if you lose more, that's all that matters to me.
Yeah.
And it's not really a prank at that point, because at a
No.
certain point, I was confrontational, right? And I
Right.
was only confrontational because, like, man, just be a decent person. And if you're gonna be a complete dickhead, then I'm gonna call you out on it, right?
Right.
Like, I got no intentions of fighting this guy, though he puffed up his chest like he was gonna fight me, and it's like, I am 6'4" and you are a hobbit. So, like, let's do this.
Man, he's probably some content creator that's telling this exact same story from his point of view.
Yeah, and he's
Getting
like, "You won't believe this asshole who was wearing 15 backpacks."
Why do you have so many backpacks? You only need one.
I had a carry-on and a single backpack, and the dude's like, his response is, "Not as many as you," and it's like, I don't even understand. Like, my first thought, like, 'cause I looked at the guy blankly, like he couldn't have said a dumber thing.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, was I wearing 15 backpacks or something? Like, how many backpacks? You don't wear a backpack on a plane. Okay, well, I had one backpack. What the fuck? And once again, like, there's a fine line between a prank and being an asshole.
Mhm.
And in this instance, like, he was the bigger asshole, don't get me wrong, but I was still kind of an asshole. And I guess my question is that appropriate? If somebody's being a complete dick to you, do you have the right to tell them, no, fuck you? You're being a complete ass. And then at what point does it stop? Because at that point, it's just an argument, right?
Right.
It's literally something that, like, could be called into the cops
Sure.
as a domestic dispute, because apparently now I'm living with him and our lover, which is
Right.
awkward.
There's always a fine line between things that are a prank when it can, and then there's a line that crosses where it is no longer a prank. And also, you do have a right, if someone is being an asshole to you, to I guess be an asshole back, but I don't know if that's a good term for it, because I don't know if it's right for two people to be assholes, because I mean, two assholes don't make a right. There's just two assholes at that point.
Right. So let me give you a good example of when, like, me during normal behavior and how I'll act, right? I was smoking outside, and, like, somebody came in who wasn't they needed something from me,
Mhm.
right? But simultaneously, like, they didn't have to be in my direct vicinity,
Sure.
right? And they're like, and keep in mind, I'm 4 feet away from this person. And they're like, can you please move back with your cigarette? I don't very much care for the smell of cigarettes, and I don't like them. They're bad for my health. And he just keeps going on and on about it.
Mhm.
And I just glare at him like, you're being dramatic. I'm not trying to give you secondhand smoke. You keep entering my area, and I keep backing up from you because
Yeah.
you have mentioned this. And then he acts like and then he's like, you guys probably think that I'm just a complete dick for this, and blah, and I don't care. And I'm like, I think you're a complete dick because I think you're dramatic as shit. Because I keep backing up from you every time you mention this, and you keep
Right.
entering my area and then telling me that I can't smoke. I'm being respectful of you,
Right.
and you're just over there. That's how I normally handle it. And then he went off on me, and I just said, "Okay, are you done now?"
Yeah.
And he didn't like that, and he wasn't apparently done at that point in time, because he gave me about an earful more, and I'm like, "Are you done now?" And apparently he wasn't done then, so he gave me an earful more, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm not gonna ask you if you're done now, but are you content with what you've conveyed?" Because I listened to all of it.
Yeah.
and he gave me an earful more, and then I walked away entirely.
Some people like
So
confrontation, I guess.
that's how I normally am. I mean, not
I
somebody who
mean,
likes confrontation.
I've
I
seen
really don't.
right. I've seen you smoke plenty of times without any confrontation. It's
Yeah.
just, I mean, how many cigarettes do you smoke? Like 200 a day, and you have exactly
At
200.
least 300. Like, if I'm not smoking a carton, then I'm not doing the shareholders of RJ Reynolds any favors.
Exactly. So
So,
out of
yeah.
your 300 cigarettes a day, and you get zero confrontation, except for the 2 times that it does happen throughout the year. I mean, those are pretty good odds.
Those are pretty good odds. I'll give you that. But
I mean,
the bigger issue is that, like, the guy addressed me with a complaint.
yeah,
He was a little bit snotty about it. I had to act professional about it.
right.
So I backed away from him, and then he wanted to give me an earful again. Meanwhile, I'm slowly easing away from him while he's slowly easing towards me. And
Sure.
I kept backing away and backing away. And it's like, at what point do I have to stop being polite? Fortunately, I was there with another guy who
Mhm.
kind of drew him off of me. And then he started smoking right in front of him. So, and then the guy started flipping out on him, and he's like, "Yeah, you can go fuck yourself," and walked off. It's like, all right. So I wasn't the only like, he
Yeah.
realized that I was trying to be polite, trying to be polite, trying to be polite, and then the troll came out in him.
Yeah. I think I think my rule of thumb is if your actions are impeding someone else's freedom, it's bad. If
Yeah.
you're doing X and they're doing Y and no one's impeding on each other's rights, it's cool.
Mhm.
If someone doesn't like you smoking, you can either one step away from them or two ask them to leave. The second one
Right.
is you saying that your rights are more important than the other ones.
Right.
As like if we're just taking this situation at face value, there
Mhm.
are smoking zones, and there
Mhm.
so like if you're in a smoking zone and the
I
person's
was
like
in a smoking zone,
you
believe it
were
or
in a
not.
smoking zone and then
Yeah,
someone kept getting closer to you and saying, "Hey,
and
don't
they kept
smoke."
backing me into a
Like,
corner.
so that's just ignorant. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you are where
Yeah.
you're supposed to be. So now that
Yeah.
person is saying that their freedom of living and their rights to do what they want are more important than your freedoms and rights to do what you want,
Right.
which ain't
And
cool.
I'm not saying yeah, well, and I'm not saying smoking's good for everybody. He presented the argument of secondhand smoke, and I'm like, "Okay,
Yeah.
alright." Like, that's you know what? Like, you don't wanna deal with it, that's fine. You approached this all wrong.
Yeah.
I'm gonna glare at you, but I am gonna back up, and I'm just not gonna say anything at this point because
Sure.
you've been rude. And I really honestly, I do not mind if somebody tells me, "Hey, you're being wrong." Because I'm wrong a lot. And if somebody's like I will take moderate behavior where somebody's a
Mhm.
little bit snippy, but they're
Sure.
not um aggressive about it. They're just
Yeah.
kind of anxious about it. I will handle that criticism well. And it's like you don't want to be around me even though I'm well within my right. That's all right. Like
Yeah.
I will give you the benefit of the doubt the first time around.
Sure.
Second time around, it depends. If you're following me into there, I'm gonna get very annoyed, and the third time, I'm gonna spit on your forehead and see what
Right.
happens.
That's just gonna escalate everything. You just
Well,
gotta
that's the entire intention of doing that, and
yeah,
I didn't do it there,
sure.
but it's like I guess this
Confrontation,
entire
though.
conversation. Yeah, I don't like confrontation. I just wanna do, like
You just want to smoke your
I
cigarette in front of the airport,
I
then
just
get on the plane and be on your merry way.
that had nothing to do with the airport. That
Oh,
was somewhere else, yeah.
oh.
So, yeah,
But you would just
that
want to
was
smoke your cigarette and then be on your merry way and move on with your life. Someone else had other
pretty
plans for that
much
cigarette.
Yeah, well, and I was far enough away from the grocery store doors to go in. So, if that gives you any sort of, like, and it's not like I work at the grocery store, by the way, so
Oh,
you
okay.
can't be like, "Employee." Yeah, I know, but you get the idea there.
Right.
It's like, so you wanna come up to me and tell me that you don't wanna smell your cigarette, we still have to talk for some reason, we still have business, and then I back away from you, and then you have even more complaints, and you keep coming up to me and doing that until somebody's like, "Hey, I noticed this guy being, like, pretty aggressive towards you. He says he doesn't have a problem with you smoking, but, rando at that. A rando."
People are just
Insane.
kinda. I always I always had this thought that like um people just feel entitled to their rights. I mean, we see that every day. I mean, we see people like protesting, like, "Hey, this is cool. You have to do it this way." And it could be for anything. It could be for.
Yep.
Um, I mean, I was looking at videos from like the '80s when people were like, "This is communism," and the thing that they were complaining about was they were installing seatbelts. And then I saw another video where people were like, "This is communism. This ain't right." And it was they were banning drinking and driving.
Actually, I think you sent me that one
Yeah.
because, like, a couple of people were really not happy about that, and
It,
some
it,
mothers got mad
it
about that.
yeah, it's just like there are certain things that you don't have to wear a seatbelt.
No,
If that's it's your choice, that's your right to make your choices. Yeah, it's illegal to not wear seatbelts nowadays, but like
it's a
it's it's still
it's
your
less
choice.
than a misdemeanor.
Yeah, it's still your
Like, you
choice.
literally pay a fine if you get caught,
Yeah,
and it's a secondary offense in my state anyhow,
sure.
but
Yeah, you totally have that freedom to make that choice. And like laws are subjective anyway. I mean, you don't have to abide by them. You
yeah,
should.
that's why I go out mass murdering every day.
I
Like, I
mean,
just do it on
some
Tuesdays.
some laws are to- geared more towards protecting people than others. Um, I mean, we did have that episode on laws and how they're basically just for guiding behavior, and like
Yeah.
the guiding behavior of not drinking and driving and wearing seatbelts is to protect you and other people around you.
Well, I
But
mean, at a
like,
certain point, I will say that, like, most people, even if they make bad decisions, they
yeah,
want the ability to be able to make bad decisions. That's
exactly.
one thing I will
If
say.
yeah, I want the choice
But
to make that bad decision. But like,
generally, I do too until it affects somebody else.
exactly. And that's how I feel how a lot of people should act is like, all right, I don't like that, but one, is it affecting me? No. Is it affecting them only? Yes. Okay. Then I'm not going to get my panties all up in a bunch. But some people are really passionate about other people's rights and they really want them to do what they think is right. I mean, just
Yeah.
look at abortion laws. Like, you don't have to
Look at
go in
that
and get an
specifically.
abortion, but some people really don't want you to go get an abortion.
Right.
You don't have to, though.
And yeah.
I never understood
But
that.
yeah,
But maybe I'm
I
just
mean,
like, I don't know.
I always thought that, no, you're not. I mean, I don't think you're wrong at all. Like, the idea when you're arguing about pro choice
Yeah.
versus pro life, the idea that here's somebody who's just arguing for the right to do it
Hmm.
versus somebody who's saying, no, I want all lives to matter.
Right.
I mean, yeah, lives are different, but let's take it from a different perspective. Let's take it from the ability to drink, right?
Sure.
You have pro choice versus pro life. Well, all alcoholics waste their lives. Do you see how that argument's a little bit different?
Yeah,
And yeah, there are a lot of people out there who are alcoholics who waste their lives.
sure.
But moving forward, a lot of people like who are either molested, raped, um, all those sorts of sexual harassment that none of us really want to discuss, who go in for an abortion. That's none of my business.
No.
Everybody has different situations, and if the foot were on somebody else's shoe, they would make excuses for themselves.
Yeah. I think it's hard for people to like put themselves in other people's situations. I mean, it is a hard thing to do. I mean, I'm really bad at it.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at empathizing with people either. I kind of just have to think about a lot of things and avoid and whether or not this situation is warranted, whether it or if it's just like a society thing and it only exists because society exists.
I understand where you're going from, where you're coming from.
Yeah.
There's this. Did you ever hear that song? You're always taught it when you first learn guitar. It's by Everlast. It's called "What It's Like."
No, I just think everyone learns Smoke on the Water first, and
Well, they do, but when you actually learn how to play guitar as opposed to playing bar chords, this is what you learn
oh,
because it's not difficult, but it teaches you about open chord structure a lot. Um, but I what you're saying is reminiscent of this. Um, I don't know, I'll send it to you after the podcast is
sure.
done. But it's just how do I want to put it? This guy does a pretty good job generally keeping in mind that this is a song from like 97, 98 or something like that,
Mhm.
right? Of reminding others to have perspective, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Just because it's not happening to you doesn't mean it's not happening to somebody else. And just because it happened to you doesn't mean it didn't happen to somebody else adversely. And the whole idea is that like you if you really thought about it, then you might know what it's like.
Yeah. And I think that's important, whether you're trying to protest something or prank someone. You kind of have to have perspective.
I would genuinely agree with that.
Yeah. But
And most
like you
people
can
don't
always
seem to have
nitpick
that.
everything if you really dive into
Oh
like
yeah.
a specific thing. You can be like, all right, in this situation, no, no, no. In this situation, yes, yes, yes. I mean, you can always find faults, but like I think there's a general broad term for that kind of thing.
Is it arrogance?
It might be. I feel like
I mean,
if
there's a few different narratives that one could follow and have different adjectives that describe it, I suppose.
right, I think if you're not kind of looking at a situation in all aspects rather than just at face value, you can. I mean, that is kind of ignorant, and I think it's kind of arrogant to kind of make it make it so your viewpoint is correct rather than just and finding fault in someone's decision for something.
I mean, and really, when you say that, I think about the poor politicians and the shareholders out there.
We really need to think about
Who
them.
we really do,
Yeah.
because like these politicians are out there risking their necks for us, right? And they're only making a couple million a year, guys. Like, what's 2 million between friends? It's
Oh,
nothing.
I
How can they really make the difference if you're not giving your PAC donations?
sometimes our government
Yeah.
really makes me sad and upset.
Yeah, the PAC donations did it for you.
Like
Yeah. The fact that like you vote and they're like, "Hey, can we have $1 from this?"
I love
That
when
bugs the hell out of me because it's like, "Oh, the Democratic National Committee needs $1 from me to reelect Joe Biden." Oh,
right.
think about it for a minute. I'm gonna postpone my taxes for 2 weeks over this dollar. It's $1. They
It's
do it because it's insignificant to you and more significant for them if a
you know,
lot of people do it.
I I don't I don't get how some people can in one sentence agree with something but also contradict them in the same thing. Like when we're talking about like being against socialism but then asking for donations to fight socialism. I saw a
Yeah.
I saw a Republican Reddit. It was a Twitter post and they said, if everyone just donates $5, we can fight socialism. And I'm like, you're literally doing a socialism right now.
Yeah.
And or like when restaurants are like, there's a restaurant by us and they're like, we are 100% against socialism, but like restaurants run on socialism because everyone runs on tips. Like
I was just
the
gonna make
restaurant would
that
not
comment.
survive without tips.
And I
And
have to look this up, but you know how much Florida sucks, right?
yeah,
Yeah. Um, but they're trying to pass some law, and I'm probably skewing it because I didn't actually do my research before this, right?
hmm
Where they're trying to, and I think it was mostly just from a Florida senator, and I think it's just a proposal. But the idea was to abolish the idea of a two-party system and allow for multiple parties.
yeah,
And even if it wasn't Florida, even if this isn't actually proposed, that's a good idea because right
right.
now,
That's a good
like
idea.
the two-party system is trying to narrow us into some form of decision, which I get that, right? Like
hmm
you got to be polarizing to some degree if you're trying to attract voters from one sect into another, those intermediate voters,
Sure.
right? But and it goes back to what you're saying about, let's say, communists, right? And about all this sort of hatred towards communism. Well, most people don't really know what communism is or even how it what the differences are between that and socialism.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's true for a lot of things too. I think a lot of people have this idea from propaganda of how how Democrats think, how liberals think, how conservatives think, how
Hmm.
Republicans are, how communism is, socialism, democracy, republic. I think everyone has this weird skew of what all those words actually mean, and they actually don't know
Hmm.
what those words actually mean.
Yeah, no, they just know the connotations associated with it.
Yeah, I mean, and it's
They
just
know they're bad.
yeah, they know that Joe Biden's bad and Trump's good. If you listen to, well, actually, no, not anymore. Fox is kind of like Trump's kind of bad too, but
Well, I was gonna say Alex Jones, but I don't
right.
even think he's promoting Trump right now.
I don't think. I think
Infowars is dying.
right. I mean, Infowars is
That's
dead. Alex is like bankrupt right now, and he still has to
oh,
pay
that's
billions of
weird. I keep
dollars.
donating $10 a month to hear the correct news and the correct narrative.
He's got to sell his brain pills too to for that lawsuit payback.
That's,
It's
I
fine.
mean, yeah. The worst part is if you talk to most people, regardless of what side, right?
Yeah.
they're going to tell you that they distrust the government, at
Sure.
least to some degree.
Yeah, that's true.
And that doesn't mean that like they hate the government. That doesn't mean that they think it can't be fixed. They just hate certain aspects of it, whether that be that like they're paying more taxes than they used to or whatever. But if you had a media outlet, which that's kind of what Trump was going for, by the way. He named his social media outlet Truth Social, I think.
Yeah, it was something like that.
So the right is very they don't trust anybody. They don't even trust their own political party.
No.
Meanwhile, the left, it's like we had a couple of good leaders. We had like Bernie,
Mm-hmm.
we had Elizabeth Warren, and now we're even getting that skeptical because instead of those two very strong candidates, we got Joe Biden, who nobody wanted. Nobody
Yeah.
wanted him, and we still don't want him. And he's just kind of milking the promise of like your student loans will go away. You know, we'll stop Doritos from snack sizing this or that.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
it's like you're not really talking about any issues at a certain point. You're just a figure in the head while other people make issues.
sure. I mean, at some point,
Important.
they just have to say clickbait words and um, what are those words that people use? Buzzwords. That's the word. They just need to use these buzzwords so they can appear that they're doing something and to help their voters be happy.
Yeah, but that's the problem with this whole argument, though, is that like nobody's happy.
Yeah.
You're just more content if you use some buzzwords and we can relate.
What's funny is like whenever I read the news, it's always like the Republicans trying to do something and then the Democrats having to fight against it.
Hmm.
It's never like,
It's always us versus them instead of like.
yeah,
And then some bills get passed bipartisan that you never had any clue were going to get passed bipartisan,
right.
which is
And
just
I don't even think we can agree on daylight savings right now and whether or not we
well,
should
we
keep
already
it.
did. It's abolished now.
Just not
The worst part
starting
is
this year. When's that starting?
I have no
'Cause
idea. I think it's
we had to
starting
move
this
our
year.
clocks.
We have one last time.
Hopefully,
But
that's isn't that someone's phrase? One more time, or
yeah. So, do you know why daylight savings time started?
oh, because farmers like to see.
That's not actually why
Oh,
daylight savings time started.
that's what I've always heard. They like seeing in the
That's what
dark.
I always heard too. I looked into it a little bit. That's not the truth at all.
Have we
Businessmen use that argument
have we just
to
been
so
like
that
have you has it been like a 100-year prank about daylight savings?
I mean, it might as well be at this point. What's 1 hour, right?
Right.
No, businessmen didn't like the idea of opening a store at, we'll just say 7 a.m. when it's still dark out, right? Because they'll keep their hours 7 to 5, we'll just say,
Yeah.
right? At Wentworth's or whatever. So businessmen said, oh, well, it's all about the farmers. And the farmers, right? They don't like, they can't see.
Sure.
They, they need to know if their crops are coming up, which ones need more water, which ones don't. But in reality, it's all marketing, right?
Yeah.
So it was more about like people don't spend money if our hours are 7 to 5 and it's dark from 7 to 8
Why don't you just change your hours to 8 to 5?
because that would be too confusing. And there was
Oh,
this big thing about it. I don't even 100% remember everything because I just thought it was so stupid that like I'm
it
like Okay,
weird.
so everything has always operated this way. Excellent news. So we're not getting dumber. We've always just been this dumb.
Yeah,
That's great for me.
yeah.
So, like, welcome, President-elect Baja Blast.
Exactly.
I don't remember what his name is offhand.
I don't remember either.
I could look it up. But that's why daylight savings time exists.
Because
It has nothing
capitalism.
to do. Well, no, I literally went. I wrote an article about this like probably about a year ago, though I never actually published it. But the big quote that I remember out of a newspaper from, I think it was like somewhere in the 1800s. I don't remember where, and I think it was like 1830 or 1860 or 19. There's a big disparity. There's a big age gap there. I don't know. I'll find the article again. But either way, the big argument that I heard was, how do you feel that time's getting like shifted around so you can have more daylight? And they're interviewing a farmer. He's like, I always just got up when the sun came up and went to sleep when the sun came down, so it doesn't make much difference to me.
Yep.
So
Time's arbitrary. You can put
yeah,
the
pretty
sun.
much to a farmer.
Yeah.
It's absolutely arbitrary.
I mean, we could set the time to have sunrise start at noon, and then
Yeah. And
everything
it
starts.
wouldn't matter because
It doesn't.
their day is when the sun comes up and their day ends when the sun goes down.
Right.
Or whenever they finish, depending on how large of a farm.
Yeah.
And some farms do run 24/7. But you do the stuff that you need daylight for,
Sure.
during the day. And it doesn't matter if somebody else claims that your 7 a.m. is 6 a.m. or vice versa.
Yeah. It just seems like our entire government is punking us.
Generally.
And it's not cool.
It definitely isn't.
The
And I
government should
say
be
that
more
we
like
should go up to them at baggage check and ask them if they remember us.
the government should be more like
But that's
Jeff
probably too aggressive.
and saxophone guy, and not like
Where
the
they're
people.
just harmless pranks.
Yeah, not like the people that are running into people's houses and stealing their dogs for like 5 minutes and then returning them, or going into the dairy aisle and licking all the ice cream and putting the covers back on.
You don't get to make fun of my previous actions.
What other?
No.
Or trolling your girlfriend and thinking you're dead in a tub.
Well, that one's just rude altogether.
Yeah, that one's not
Like,
a prank. That one's just
no.
that's
That
just
one's just mean.
that one's just like a joke. I love when people's jokes are like, "Oh, it's just a joke. Don't take it harsh." And it's like them punching them in
But
the
it
face.
actually has malicious intent.
Right.
Yeah.
I hit you with my car. Don't
I
worry,
know.
it's just a joke. Can't you take a joke?
Yeah.
Don't be so sensitive. Like,
No. And that's how I felt about the guy who was asking me on the plane, what am I going to do about it? Nothing.
yeah,
It's like, I am around a bunch of flight attendants right now. And I am damn sure that, like, I punch you in the face, I'm going to jail.
right.
And I'm going to be blacklisted from flights. And I am patient. And I am kind. And I will wait. And then when I was right next to him at baggage check, after he realized it was me, his eyes, like, you ever talk to somebody when you're really pissed at them and their pupils dilate right in front of you, like they don't know what's happening?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm not really trying to be a dick here, but like, you were a complete asshole and that doesn't go unrecognized. And as a result, somebody needs to talk to you about your behaviors within society. And most people probably won't, because most people don't have that. Most people just don't have that in them.
I mean,
most people will just let it go.
Some people will mentally decide if it's worth their time to do it or not.
Right. Well, and in the interim, like, as soon as I sat down and the flight attendant came around, I'm like, I just want to file a report about, like, the guy who's, I don't know what seat he's in, Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I can tell you what he looks like, but that's not going to help because they're all middle-aged white dudes up there. Like, I just want you to know that this guy tried to start an altercation with me, and I want it documented. And the only reason I want it documented is because when I get off of this plane, I want to make sure that if he tries to start something, that I'm not liable for that. That I have a previous,
Sure.
like some form of documentation saying that I stated this guy was being an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
And the flight attendant then took it as I was being a Karen. And she's like, I am so sorry that happened to you. What do you want out of this? And I'm like, it's fine that it happened. I just wanted it documented. I don't care what happens. And this isn't on you guys either. This is just I wanted it to be known that somebody up there is trying to create a big fuss, and that after this flight is over, if this guy tries to create a bigger fuss, and yeah, I antagonized him a little bit, but that wasn't, I'm not the victim here. I
Right.
did that because I don't like bullying. But she seems so confused by the fact that I didn't want anything except for this to be documented in a way that, if something were to happen,
Right.
I just want to be able to fall back onto this conversation.
Sure. You just want a case file.
Pretty much. And she was so confused by that. Which goes back to, was she playing a prank on me? I don't
Probably.
know.
She needs to act
But-
confused because she actually doesn't want to make a document on it.
Pretty much. And then eventually I got her other supervisor involved because I was like, and then she came back and she's like, what do you want out of this? Do you want upgraded seats? I'm like, no, I just want it to be documented.
You want to be put next to that guy.
I was being pretty clear the first couple times.
You should have said,
I-
I need to be put next to that guy.
Oh, I should have.
Yeah, I need to be
That
next
way
to
we
him.
can talk this out and hash it out heart to heart.
Yeah.
But it wasn't about me being dramatic or anything like that. It was just nah, this dude's in first class, which, bearing in mind, I have enough points that I could upgrade too.
Mm-hmm.
But I save those for special occasions. And when I'm there, I don't act like an asshole. So,
Is first class nice?
don't
Is
know.
it worth it?
I mean, it's weirdly nice. Don't get me wrong, it's completely different transition from back there, but simultaneously, it's not worth it. I would rather deal with being cramped for a few hours. Now, if I was there for 6, 7, 8 hours,
Yeah.
it's terrible. I've had to do from here to California, and that's like a 4-hour flight, 3-hour flight, and it's terrible. But is it worth it to be in first class? No, it's not. Unless you really like getting pampered and get a lot of enjoyment out of that. The extra leg room's all I care about.
Right. They should just make planes where everyone stands.
Like a bus.
Yeah. But it's like an Airbus.
Those exist, and everybody sits down.
Well, no, we need to make it so they stand so you can fit more people in.
Oh, that's fair that way. If this is your stop, please deploy the parachute this time. We had an accident earlier.
That would actually that would decrease airport traffic because everyone's just landing themselves.
And you just ship your parachute back after you properly pack it through the postal service?
No, they just have one dude with a broom that sweeps it up and throws it away.
Anywhere in the U.S.
No, there's
I got work to
there-
do, and I'm involved in Seattle
there's
today.
there's landing pads that instead of airports, there's just landing pads and everyone's just parachuting into the landing pad. Yeah, come on, Ryan.
I'm just stuck in the past, and we both know that.
I don't see any real issue with that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some implications, but like, you know,
I see the big issue with that, and that's the fact that you would need to train everybody to be a paratrooper, and that not all weather is ideal for that. But simultaneously, there are times where it'd be much more convenient to parachute to a Hertz than actually like going to the airport, then going to the Hertz
right,
next door.
right, exactly. I
Yep.
feel like this needs to be we need to put our brightest minds on parachuting Airbuses.
I'm gonna smoke, and then I'm gonna think about this
I
real
mean,
quick, and then
honestly,
we're gonna come up with some of the best ideas the Airbus industry has ever seen, Aaron.
tune in next time for Airbus.
Oh. In the interim, I'm your host, Ryan.
And I'm Aaron.
No, his name's Ryan too. It's
Oh,
just the Ryan and Ryan show. Yeah.
it's the.
He's dyslexic. Don't trust him.
I thought there was a P and P.
Follow the Republican Party and understand that everything's a lie.
Everything will be fine if you vote red. Maybe. I don't believe that though.
No, me neither. In the interim, I'm Ryan.
Hi, Ryan.
He's Aaron. Okay, goodbye.